So we once saw X, a horror movie. I love horror. Colleen's some horror, I guess.
I'm getting more into it, if you've noticed, as I age.
So
I like
X is a throwback. 1979, my birth year. So there's that too. And it was filmed in that style.
I like the style.
The director Ty West has done a throwback movie before called The House of the Devil that was excellent. And he does slow burn type of movies. So this was about a group of young adults who rent a house in the middle of nowhere in Texas to film a porno. There's an older couple who they rented that house from, and they are not aware of the purpose of why they're renting the house. And then they find out, and things kind of unfold and become disturbing, awkwardly,
to say the least,
awkwardly funny. Or were we supposed to laugh at some of it? It's a horror movie,
but there were some.
But there's definitely parts that were, to me, humorous. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if they were intended to be humorous. I mean, it's a slasher through and through, and it even does the whole thing where like old slashers used to do, where like the people who do drugs and have sex die.
So, I am used to like the old school horror movies like that like they have sex or drugs or alcohol or something like that. They're usually the ones that get killed first. So I was surprised the one person that didn't do that was the first one killed.
Did he not do drugs?
Well, he didn't in the whole movie, and he didn't have sex.
No, I just figured he was part. So yeah, there's one character who's kind of the filmmaker. Mm-hmm. And he wants the porno to be like elevated or like, I guess, higher standard of porn. Which as he's like saying that kind of stuff, I'm like, I wonder how many people have said that. Like, let's make porn that's like a better story. There's satire in this because the reply from one of the characters is like, no one watches porn for the story.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's making fun of itself. And then even the horror elements, there's parts where it's making fun of itself. I don't know, but it was really well put together.
I really enjoyed it.
And the acting, like,
yeah.
The lead actress is Mia Goth. I remember seeing her before. And then the blonde was Brittany Snow. She's been in other horror movies before. And then the one guy was Martin Henderson, who I haven't seen him in forever, but like probably 10 years ago he was in stuff more often. But all of the acting was great. The storyline was very simple, like a horror movie should. So, I don't know. I always respect horror movies because of the creativity it takes to have such a simple story, but yet bring emotion from the viewer. Mm-hmm. Like either scares or tension, or also mixing in some comedy, because the payoff to a lot of the tension building doesn't always have to be scares. It can be comedy. So, like, you go back and forth between those emotions. So, all of that was, like, done very well.
I have to say, it's very hard for me to do movie reviews that are non-spoiler, just because I blurt things out. And there's so much in my head that I want to say that I'm like, am I allowed to say that? Would that spoil it for somebody? Would they connect the dots when they're watching the movie? So it's very
I don't know how many people are going to see this movie. It's an independent.
It's really good. So, you should go see it.
The old couple basically are an insane old couple.
They're so ugly.
So, like, the twist in this that's fresh or new is I've not seen character, like, elderly portrayed this way. You know what I mean? It's like something... I've seen horror movies where an elderly person, like, there was one, I forget, that was about an older lady who you're led to believe she has dementia. So, like, the things she's experiencing and stuff like that, and, like, the family believes she has dementia, but it's really, like, a possession. So that was the only thing that I've really seen that dealt with, like, an elderly person in a horror movie.
Let me tell you.
As far as this old of, like, elderly.
They're old, like... They did like such details. 70s. Yeah. Like me, like things that I pick up on because I am like as I am, I'm very, very observant in little details. Like even like when she was sitting at her makeup vanity, like the sound of like brushing her hair,
Mm.
and like how thin it was, and then like her old makeup, like that blue makeup, like the cakeness to it. Like that's how makeup used to be, like that cakiness. And like I pick up on little things like that.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a director.
But it
and the
was so
detail.
good. She was like, there were so many times that I thought, no,
Oh what?
just no, just is she? It was gross. Just
Yeah, so
no,
it made things not just
no.
like a horror element, but creepy,
Mm,
awkward,
mm. And him,
they're
and
mentally
like,
unhinged.
and did you? Oh, there's. Oh, we'll get to that. Mm.
But the movie was put out by A24, so A24 is the film studio that put out Hereditary
That was so good. I need to
and
watch that again.
Midsommar.
I really liked Midsummer too.
Yes.
You didn't think I'd like Midsummer.
Well, no, because it's again. I mean that those two were made by the same director, and it's not this director. So they also are kind of slow burn. Like A24 puts out horror movies that have good storylines. Directors who can be artistic, but also their attention to detail. I guess that's the thing that kind of sets them apart. Is the directors all have an attention to detail that's kind of lacking in other just general horror movies that come out.
So there were so many elements to this movie that what really I enjoyed about it being a good horror movie is there were times where I literally sat like this. I don't
Your
know.
eyes closed?
Oh no, because I knew something was going to come, but he had so much shock factor, like things would just happen to where I'm like, and usually I like to watch and then like get that jump, but then like anticipating up to it, I was like, I'm gonna jump. I'll just close my eyes.
Yeah,
So I knew something was coming.
Tension building was on point. There were times where I was like, is the pace going to pick up, like, or is somebody going to die? You're going to like see a slasher movie. So,
you really were waiting for somebody to get
there
killed.
Was hints at stuff. It's literally like, but the trick to slow burn is to have enough other interesting things, either characters, storyline, whatever, carry it. That was like their conversation about with making the porno and stuff like that, and then so that was entertaining in and of itself and funny. But then, so when the killing does start, it's like a bigger shock value. So like if you can build that tension slowly, then you have and that's exactly how he did.
There was so many scenes where I was like, "This is it. She's dead. Oh, she's gone," and then she didn't, and I was like, "Okay." Yeah. So like you did have a lot of that tension.
The payoff is delayed, and that's like the point of like a great filmmaker if they can manage that and play with your emotions in that sense. Yeah. So the homages. So it feels like, I mean, it literally advertises the date. And Texas, it's happening in Texas and everything else, and it does feel like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like it was filmed right there in the 70s when Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out. I would actually say this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, is probably one of my favorite horrors because it also did the same thing of building tension and not showing a ton. This movie was way gorier than Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like, people think it's gory, but if you literally pay attention while you're watching, there's hardly any blood in it. There's a lot of screaming, chasing, creepy stuff happens, but there's hardly any blood. Whereas this, definitely gorier, but then it also, there's an alligator in this movie, and it's used effectively, which is an homage to Eaten Alive, which is also another Tobe Hooper film made in the 70s, who was the original director of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So those are the only two that kind of stood out to me. So I guess it's really just a Tobe Hooper homage.
He was so creepy. Like, the makeup they did on these two people, like, they really, like, and I hate even saying this because I feel like not nice saying it, but they were so, ooh.
The only bad thing that I had was, it, like I said before, was a little bit too slow. But it didn't ruin anything. So there was just nothing else bad to really point out.
I didn't see anything bad. I don't think it went too slow, because I felt like everything was intentional to like build the suspense and
Yeah.
tension to where it had to go. So to me, I didn't feel the slowness, which is funny that you say that because typically I would be the one being like, oh, went a little too slow, but I didn't think so.
I guess because I was thinking of Ty West's other movie, House of the Devil. It literally, the only action horror that happened was in like the last 5 minutes. So it literally was a slow, literally slow burn through the whole movie. About halfway, there was some creepiness starting. And then the climax and the payoff was only the last 5 minutes.
So
And
how
it was impactful because I remember the movie and I've watched it multiple times.
I
But
haven't seen it.
as I'm watching this, I'm like, please tell me he doesn't do the same thing. And like the killings and like the payoff isn't just 5 minutes at the end. So I think that was like
Okay.
ruining the pace for me. But it didn't. There was pauses, but there was moments between killings, so it wasn't all just very fast. And it was all believable though, like the way
Like
that
everything that happened.
you would wonder how two elderly people who can hardly walk could manage doing this. And there's kind of like scenes that allude to they've been doing this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And typically it's only like one person at a time, but this is like a group of what, 5 or 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
I remember I said in the car, like, oh, that makes
you're
sense.
sinking
Like,
down
why?
again. You just keep disappearing out
There.
of frame.
All right. All right. Like when I had said, like, oh, like afterwards when you start thinking about it, you start putting things together. Like, oh,
Yeah.
That's why he said
Oh
that.
yeah, the foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were talking about it in the car. Yeah, there's foreshadowing is very good. So there's elements that like are spoken of in a natural way. Like sometimes foreshadowing is like, oh, it's almost like you watch a whole movie and think back, and it seems like they intentionally cut something in to try to explain it to the audience better. But this was natural. Like every conversation was natural and believable, and even the foreshadowing that like led to the reasoning for something else later was full. Like it was just the attention to detail and and that's the thing. The director, he was the writer, director, and producer. Like he had full control over this whole movie. Just one dude.
I had to say, like, I actually want to see it again, like soon.
Yeah.
To like,
I mean,
I do. I really,
I don't think I
really
need to see it
enjoyed
in
it.
theaters.
No, I'll wait till it
I'm
comes
sure
out.
I mean, nowadays streaming, it's like within 2 months things are out on streaming.
But I want to see and put all those attention because I can't even, like, even this morning I started thinking about that old couple and I'm like, ew, like just ew, no. And then you get to one point and you're like, nope, no. And then you still watch it, and then like, ew, the attention, like the makeup artist, like even on his butt and his back,
Yeah,
like
there was like
lesions.
lesions.
Yes, I was like, stop now. The way the old lady was like so sensual, and like for the way they played it with the guy, it was just good.
Oh, and the first killing, and she did that dance.
Yeah, what? That's when you're like, this lady is.
This isn't really a
crazy.
spoiler. They want to be young again so bad that they're crazy.
I think she wants to be young again so bad, and he goes with it.
He's just trying to cover up her craziness.
Yeah. Like the way he's like, I left one for you.
But
and
she
I'm
was
like,
a dancer. So, like, when she kills the first guy and, like, the blood covers the headlights,
it's just all
as
red.
it's doing it, the scene itself turns more red and red and red. So, like, the director intentionally colors the screen red to give it a red hue because now the headlights are covered in blood. And then when she's finally done and stands up, all like an old person stands up, and then she goes into a dance. Like, that hooked me. There's something that's playing on the TV throughout the whole movie in different settings. And then there's a tie-in with the main character to what's going on the TV that you didn't expect.
That twist, you're like, and that came out of nowhere. Like that twist, like you would not have.
It's not really a twist. It's just a revelation.
Yeah, but you
it's
weren't
not
expecting
like you're not
it.
leading you one direction. It's just, again, foreshadowing information they
Yeah,
were
because I was like,
slowly
how does she
planting.
know that quote?
Yes.
But then, like, an hour later, you find out
Yeah, there's things
why.
that are said by a character that are being said on the TV.
So good.
Yeah, again,
I
the attention,
highly recommend.
The attention to detail. It's definitely not for everyone though. So
No.
if you don't like horror and gore,
Don't
not
go.
for you.
Mm-mm.
If you're not into like discussion about porn, or like if that offends you, don't go, because you know they do talk about both sides. It wasn't like pro porn or it wasn't like an anti-porn movie. It was just an element that was in the film to give the motivation to be at this, you know, secluded place. So there is interesting conversation about it, and like literally what motivates people to be in it versus people who are dating people who are in it. Like, you know, it's just interesting conversation to see like how
they think.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, don't go see that.
Yeah, but
if that offends you. The art form of the movie was fantastic.
That's why I like horror. I'm not pro killing people. I
hope not.
But I'm pro art and creativity of what it takes to create that element that like makes someone have a feeling while you're watching something. Like to stir that emotion.
Just
by
talking
simply
about
watching
it
something
makes me want to go see it. It really does. Like, I really liked it that much to where I actually am curious to see these other movies you've talked about.
Well, and plus, like, how detailed it is. Like, I'm interested in going back and see it to really then pay more attention.
Yes.
Now that you know how the story unfolds, you're not, like, sucked into the story so much. You can, like, really pay attention to the detail and the conversation and stuff.
That's it. That's all I got for this one because I don't want to give anything away. And if I continue to talk about it, I will give something away for sure.
And I'm starting to get blinded by the sun. So, till next time.
Last tag.